Jackass Express podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the long-awaited Jackass Express podcast. This is the episode for March 8th, 2025. We have returned after all this time. I know you all have been super excited and eager for us to be here. Today we have joining us Mr. Jeffrey Mickelson, as always, and Mr. Jonathan Chase. Welcome, gentlemen. It's good to have you again.
Goddamn cat. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Yes, it's been a long time.
Since then, Chase has gotten a cat, which is awesome.
Which is a story in of itself.
That's right.
Well, it leads into the first of many questions, which is, how have you guys been? I mean, I know it's been a while. I apologize for that. We've got fatherly duties about us, as well as work and life in general. But who would want to start us off? Mr. Jonathan, would you like to say what you've been up to?
Oh my gosh. What have I been doing?
Jeff, would you like to take the wheel?
When was the last time we did one of these?
That's a very good question. As a matter of fact, I need to go into the archives here, but I would say at least a year. It's our annual podcast episode, so let's go with a year just to be safe.
Well, just normal life.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Virginia now.
All right.
Super excited to be in the South, or as close to the South as I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to anybody who's from the South who actually might be listening to this. Enjoying a mild winter compared to Wyoming, and not looking forward to a super unpleasant summer as it gets warmer here.
That's good. That's good. Is there anything in particular that you've been excited about experiencing there, or food, culture?
No, it's just lots of traffic and lots of people. I definitely miss all the open space we had out west.
I mean, everybody's been kind of adjusting pretty much okay, or has it been kind of like this is just where we're at right now?
Yep, pretty much. Everybody's not happy or not enjoying it as much as we'd hoped, but it is where we are now, so we have no choice.
I'm sure there's a lot of people who are in that exact same situation where they're just having to deal with whatever situation they're given, but looking for the most positive outlooks that are, just available.
Oh, yeah.
That being said, I mean, what do you guys do for fun nowadays? Do you have? I'm sorry.
It's never been easy living in the Virginia DC area. It's always been crappy.
Have you had experience living there, Mr. Chase, or heard stories?
Well, I've been there enough where where I can kind of get a pretty good feeling about what it's like to live there.
Everything takes twice as long because there's several hundred times more people trying to get there.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, before I even left for Asia, I stayed there for at least a few months with my uncle.
Mm-hmm.
And that in of itself, just trying to get anywhere, you had to plan just for 2 hours just to drive anywhere.
Yep. We went 10 miles away to Maryland today, and it took us an hour.
I believe it. Oh my goodness. And then as it is, it's difficult with the traffic, but then you're also dealing with extra passengers in your vehicles, your family. And I'm sure we can all agree that it's a little bit more of a challenge to get the family ready to go anywhere.
Yes.
Jeff, has it been very difficult to get your family organized in order to go take care of something?
Well, no. We've reached the point where the oldest can now stay home by herself. So that makes it easier when we have to run to the store. The youngest hates every minute of it, but she will get there eventually. No, the challenge is getting out of the vehicle when we've gone someplace, because they're always the last out.
Mm-hmm.
They wait until we've parked and the car is off before they start gathering their things and taking their seatbelts off. And I'm standing in the parking lot or whatever waiting to lock the car, and they're taking forever.
No, that's a great question. Are you the type that, I've parked the car, I'm going to take my time, make sure I have my phone, make sure I have everything that I need? Or is it like, okay, I'm here, car goes off, I know I have everything, and then open the door, I'm out of the car?
Well, I know where everything is, so I don't need to wait and waste time looking for it.
Fair enough. Do you feel like that's a you thing, or is that a father thing where you've gotten so tired of having to wait that you're like, I am absolutely not going to be the reason we take more than we need to with this trip?
I think it's not just me. I believe my wife does the same thing. Mm-hmm. And then she grumps at the kids when they're taking their sweet time to get out of the car.
Yes.
True. Even better in the summer when it's 100 degrees and they're taking forever and the car is off and it's not comfortable outside.
It's very fair. Do they ever like give you any problems trying to take things into the store that you prefer that they did not take into the store?
The youngest will bring stuffies or other crap sometimes.
Oh, yeah, no, believe me, I share that. I have to always make sure and say, was this item available at the store in any capacity that it could be looked at as, oh, this person took this and is just walking around with it in the store? Because I never want to be stopped to think, oh my goodness, this kid's trying to steal something. The parents just don't care. No, it's always an adventure trying to get anybody in and out of a store.
Yeah, that's worse.
Mr. Jonathan, is this what you've been experiencing as well, or?
Well, yeah, the worst is like when the kids always want, I want something to read. I want this toy. I want whatever. And so like you just give it to them just to hold on to it until like the checkout line.
And then
or you try to distract them. Yeah, or you have to distract it before you do that. Like, hey, what's that over there? And then you take it away and hide it in the rack somewhere. And then they, kind of pray to God that they forget about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's very true.
Yep. That is so accurate.
Mine is more of the experience of, let's say we have a video game at home. Mario 3D World is the most recent one that I can think of. And we'll go to some place like Target, and they have that display, the one display like they used to when we were kids, but now it's just one. And they have Mario 3D World there. They have all the latest games and stuff. And they'll play a game that they have at home there more than they ever did at home for no other reason than there and on display.
I will never let them touch that display.
And I concur with you there. Before I even get near it, April's there with the wipes and all that stuff. And I'm like, hi, but you guys don't even play this when you're at home. Why is it that we're at Target and somehow we have to stop here and do this? And I think the way we mediate that is like, look, I'll just stay with the kids and you focus fire, get whatever it is we need, and I'll catch up to you,
Yeah, it's kind of to divide and conquer.
Yeah,
I agree.
No, they're kind of okay about that. I think the worst is like to kind of circle back to what Jeff was saying about the misery in the car, is that a lot of times you have like the kids, like for example, Adeline, she'll immediately be like, I want a snack. I want this, and I want to eat that, and I want to watch the phone or whatever it is. And you're just like, no.
Yep.
This is accurate.
You try to distract them to figure that out, or you just, I understand. I have to ask Andrew to distract her or whatever. Just we can at least drive to where we're going in somewhat peace.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm hungry. I want to eat in the car.
It's this new idea that kids just cannot stand being bored.
Being not entertained, yes.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. Yes. Because Andrew's constantly asking me for like, oh, can I watch your phone? Can I do this or whatever? And I'm like, just look out the window.
Exactly.
We have that with our youngest. She will be picked up first from the school and want entertainment for the 10 minutes while she goes with her mom to pick up the oldest from the other school.
Entertain me.
And if we show up and we don't have her entertainment system, she gets so mad.
Oh no.
It's good to be bored.
And Jeff, let me ask you, do you feel like they're better like able to keep it together when they're in a school like setting than they are at home? Because in my experience, like from what I hear from their teachers, they're perfect angels at school, but the second they get home, there's this constant, I'm bored, I want to do something. And it's like, oh man. Really?
Yes. That's like what it's like for me. We always say, do you act like this with your teacher? Are you obstinate with your teacher? Do you always talk back like this to your teacher or whatever? Because it sounds totally different.
Listen to me, 6-year-old. Are you obstinate with your... Yeah. It's a perfectly reasonable question. Jeff, have you experienced that?
We always get told their teachers love them and that they're really great at school, but as soon as they get home, they're demanding. It's a nice way to put it.
They recognize who the authority figures are, and it's not mom and dad. It's teacher. And teacher... We'll lay down the law, but mom and dad are the ones who are like, I just want to go to sleep. Please, what do you want now? Yep. No, that's very true.
he has a hard time distinguishing, like separating me from dad and me from
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like the way they talk to me is just like, I'm like, why do you talk to me like we're your buddies or something like that?
A lot different than the way that our dads used to deal with
Oh
us.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
have you ever been and this is great that I'm talking to fellow dads here. Have you ever been called bruh
Yes.
Yes,
by these kids?
Yes.
yes,
And do you feel the same
Yes.
frustration that I do?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Or my son likes to use yes sir, but like not like yes sir, I'll do it. It
Mhm.
was more like yes sir. It's like what are you talking about?
It,
Yeah.
it's so counterintuitive because at the same time you're happy that they're enjoying spending time with you, you're also like, wait a minute, I can't be doing this with them because then they're not going to get the point that there's like Chase was saying, a differentiation between dad and friend. And I'm willing to be your friend so long as you follow these very simple rules. But
Mm-hmm.
if you do not follow the very simple rules, we can't be friends. And that's just my duty. That's not my, my desire to be mean to you, but you have to follow the simple rules. I mean, that's fair
Yes.
enough. But Jeff, have you ever been like taken aback by a situation where you've been introduced to, or like, what is happening? That we're getting way too familiar here. No.
I think it's just the words that the oldest uses that are very slangy and words that I would not expect someone to say to me, let alone someone who I still think of as a kid.
Fair.
Right. I think even I'm
It's
trying
fun
to
to
think
turn it
about.
back on her and use the wrong
Yeah.
slang terms.
Oh yeah, reason the wrong way.
And it really
I
annoys
probably
her
like
when I
that.
say skibbity and it's
Oh
not
yes,
in the right
Jeff,
context.
we had that
context.
we had that exact discussion today, beginning with what the hell is skibbity?
Yes.
And I got the definition. I'm like, oh, that stupid thing. You guys say that? Well, it's funny.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Sure. Yes.
Okay.
Chase, have you been hit with the lingo of the modern day kids?
You know, I kind of put the kibosh on it here because since I hear it so often at work,
No, that's true. You're
I
around
just
kids all the time.
I preface it with like, look, I'm around that all the time. I don't want to hear it at home. But it's like also you gotta remember, and when I tell my son, it's like sometimes like my least favorite students are the ones that are saying it the most. And I don't want you to be lumped in with that because you're talking just like them. And then he kind of got it after that. He's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. You can stand out by not doing what everybody else is saying and just using, very generic, common generalities and politeness nowadays. And that's what I keep trying to tell my son is like, if you say please and thank you and yes sir, no sir, and yes ma'am, no ma'am, you will stand out like you would not believe it. And they're just the tiniest little efforts that you need to make. And you will stand out because everybody else is not going to do that. And
Yeah.
it's such a simple gesture, but it's so obvious. So, yeah, no, I feel you there. I definitely feel you there. Well, gentlemen, before we turn into the 100% Dad podcast, because I know we both have war stories that could last for hours, and I'm more than willing to circle back to this. There is some things I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on in some topics that I know are very interesting nowadays. They're very heated topics, and Jeff's particularly, I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay.
Recently, we've had the proliferation of a lot of. I sound very official, don't I? I'm sorry.
You do.
I don't mean to. I'm not at all in any way
You're using very big words. I didn't
qualified
use
to
it.
even sound official. I'm I forget the guy who's so popular right now. Who's doggone, I forget his name. I'll come back to it. But I want to hear your thought on the effect of AI related technologies in today's modern world. I mean, it's getting a little bit insane, isn't it? There's no wrong answers. It's just all opinion.
I'd be interested in hearing a teacher talk about that.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Because I've definitely got like, my mixed feelings about it.
Yes, let's hear
Because
it. Yeah.
I think so when it comes to students using it, it's a big no-no,
Sure.
right? Because they need to at least understand how to do it first before you can utilize the information or at least begin how to use it. And using AI just kind of defeats that purpose and doesn't show that you've learned anything.
Right.
But like for teachers, on the other hand, and like my coworkers and I have extensively talked about this, we are under the impression that because we've put in our dues, we did the work, we
Due
did the
diligence.
training, and we went to school and all this stuff. Like we know what we're doing. Using AI to make our jobs easier is like a godsend.
Right.
I mean, I've used AI. I've used AI to I guess to double check papers to make sure they haven't used AI. But then I've used AI like for lesson plans.
Right.
I've used AI for parent comments and things like that. And you know, because I think it's understanding the prompts, like how to use the prompts effectively, then it's totally fine.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I would agree 100% because from my perspective, and I'm not an educator, so I don't have the same experience or the knowledge of child relationships, but I always feel like school is the place where you're taught how to ask the right questions. And when you ask the right questions, you get good answers that are able to, develop you and be able to use the information effectively because it's a genuine thought process you went through. I had a genuine interest in discovering how such and such works or such and such happened. And then I'm given
Yeah.
a correct response and I digest that information because I had a genuine interest in asking that question. And I think AI is no different. It's not the study of, oh, how do I get the right answer? No, it's learning how to ask the right questions because you can have all the answers available to you, but if you don't have the genuine ability to ask a correct question, AI is going to be even more lost to you, and you're going to settle for just the most common denominator answer. And you're not going to grow from that. You're just going to
Or you're not going to understand. You're not able to synthesize the information given to you by AI because you don't understand it. If you knew the
exactly.
question, it means that you understand the basics, at least the underlying principles of whatever you're asking, and that you're able to use that information in the correct way.
I couldn't say that any better myself. I mean, that's exactly how I feel about it. And you're right. It does serve like a wonderful tool, like a calculator. It gives you an answer in a pinch, and it helps you, especially the teachers who are overworked nowadays, and they get little recognition for the amount of work they've put into. Of course, they need a little bit of help, and this is a great little tool for them to use. But it can also be used in the opposite way, where you assign your student a writing prompt and they want to
Yep.
they want them to really explore the full capacity of their imagination, but
Yeah, and
it
so
can.
now when it comes to that,
Mhm.
it's like we have to start thinking about, okay, I cannot give my student a writing prompt based off of like you know, off this book or whatever. Now I gotta give them a writing prompt based off of what we talked about in class, because that would
Right.
make it way harder to make an AI written essay. But then
Right.
also on the other side too, you know your students well enough to where if let's say Joe has been mediocre at best and been giving me, haphazard material or, throughout the entire year, then suddenly his final paper is, written like college level and things like that. And you
Yes.
know that this is not his work. This is not Joe's work. And a lot of times, that's the thing though. Students
What if he's a
aren't able to
savant?
understand. Yeah. I mean, now on the other hand, if he were really smart, he would be like, write this essay with the vocabulary of like a fourth grader or something like that. Then suddenly like, oh, okay, this sounds a little bit more believable.
You see, kids, we're here to give you the answers of how to cheat effectively. You're welcome. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
Well,
Terrible message. I'm
well,
just joking.
actually, I've told like my older students that like if you need to do like MLA formatting or citations, then AI is your best friend, and then you just like, instruct them how to do that.
Yeah, yeah, no, and unfortunately, it seems to be the way things are heading. It's Jeff. Are you a proponent of, like, let's say your kids are struggling with a certain amount of prompts or questions, and you're like, I really want to help you with this, but it's not what I'm studying at the moment, or it's not what I'm familiar with at the moment. How do you approach that? Is it like here's a book, good luck, or is it like, well, I guess you can go Google it or AI it in this circumstance? What's your approach towards all this?
The closest we've come to that is with our oldest playing Zelda. Mm-hmm. And we already have a book, a guide like we used to use back in the 90s.
Oh, no. I have to wait. I have to ask you a question. Which Zelda are we playing? Breath of the Wild? Tears of the Kingdom?
Tears of the Kingdom right now.
You know, Jeff, I've been told by my son that she's destroyed my progress in both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And I'm very frustrated with you because I'm supposed to be able to beat that. I don't know how
she's destroyed your progress because she's not playing on the same system.
On the Switch, no?
But not your game.
No, but because she's much further along than it. I haven't even really explored Breath of the Wild. It's a compliment. I think it's very awesome that she's able to get into that type of game. I mean,
yes.
And I love that game. I just don't have the time to do it. But yes.
Agreed.
So, Jeff.
But she will ask me to look up where things are, and I will tell her, go look in the book that you've already read cover to cover several times. And she'll get mad at me because she doesn't want to look in the book because it's work.
And there's something to that, isn't there? There's something to say, don't look for the immediate answer. Look for it. Really put the effort into getting it. Get the research going because it teaches your brain to understand that answers are not supposed to be immediate. Because when they're immediate, you become dependent, and when you become dependent, you become reliant, and then when you become reliant, you and it gets taken away. You're gone. You have nothing else to do. And
sometimes it's okay to not know.
Yes, because then you get to discover, right? You get to try and fail, and that's not a bad lesson either.
I enjoyed looking through the book when I was a kid playing these games and figuring things out. Right. I couldn't imagine having it all handed to me.
And Zelda, as a wonderful example, and in the same case of like a writing prompt or a problem-solving activity, they're designed to make you think critically. But if you're led into the answer too easily, your brain doesn't gain the muscles it needs to do those things. And now I sound like an old man. You know, back in my day, you really had to open up the textbook and you had to look up the line in the chapter and go ask the librarian for, the exact number and module. And that it can come across that way, but there is a value, again, going back to being able to ask the right questions. Because if you don't know what you're looking for and you don't understand what you're looking for, you don't really develop from it. You just get an answer and you go on.
Yeah.
So,
Well, at least when it comes to games, it's about like the experience of the game too. It's part of it. Mm-hmm. Like you remember the trials and tribulations, and you appreciate the game more when it's like, man, this game was super hard.
Mm-hmm.
The Souls series are a good example of that. Better off not knowing any answers and just going through it blind.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to do it that way.
So turning it from, forms of entertainment and education, we also have nowadays the, we have media coming at us with advertisements for, sales and marketing. They want to get to your thing. I mean, I'm sure we've all felt this point, felt this way at some point where we're talking about something and magically our phone seems to know what we were talking about. If we were talking about how the cat needs, extra litter, and then all of a sudden our phone's advertising, cat food, or it's advertising cat toys, or it's advertising things. And maybe that's just the personal, and it most likely is, self awareness of like, wait a minute, this is a little bit too weird, a little bit too coincidental. Do you feel like we're being listened to by like our phones and Alexas and all these sorts of things that kind of personalize our tastes a little bit too eerily?
I think more of that is the phone will track where you are. And I think a lot of retailers have little devices that track whose Bluetooth is where. And they see, you go and buy a lot of litter. Let's start pushing ads for litter.
In that area.
Yeah, instead of just listening to what we have to say.
Fair. Very fair. Jonathan, do you feel like that's something you've experienced or not so much?
I'm sorry, what was that?
No, we're talking about like, how sometimes you talk about something or a product and then somehow your phone knows that you've been talking about it and it's like marketing stuff at you all the time? Have you experienced something?
Wasn't that by design?
Yeah, like if you're talking about cats and all that.
It happens for sure. I mean, I think nowadays, even because you go through those, what they call the cookie opt-in that says, what do you want on your cookie opt-in? Even when you say nothing, you still get like ads for it.
Yeah, it's so apparent. Go ahead.
to use your kitty litter example, we talk about cats all the time in our house.
Well done, sir.
But because we are not in the market for kitty litter, we don't get ads for kitty litter. We don't go shopping for it or anything. So the internet doesn't know to push litter on us.
And that makes sense. But it also suggests that because you're not speaking of it in a way that it could be influenced by and I hate to say AI for everything, but I mean by something that's recognizing the verbiage and regurgitating it to you with the ads that are available with keywords, you can say that by not talking about it, you can avoid that. But
this is true.
It's not unheard of that people who do experience this, usually it's because they've been talking about it in vicinity to things that may or may not be listening to them, and would be a little bit unfortunate if they did. But
yeah, that's fair.
Unsettling, but not at all unsurprising. And I feel like as I'm getting older and I'm getting into my more, I don't want to say indifferent dad feelings, but it is kind of like well, what did you expect? Because I feel like there's two approaches towards it. There is you fight against it, you do everything you can to stay against it, and that kind of comes with your don't tell people who you are online. Don't, tell them your age restricted content, age restricted video games. You stay where where you feel comfortable and safe and protective. But it also stands to reason that despite our best efforts, there's still something that's nuancing through whatever is ascertained to highlight these, generalities of people in your area. And then,
yeah, that's fair.
Where are these things coming from? And no, I've definitely noticed that. And as a dad, I feel like, well, what did you expect? I mean, yes, this is happening. Of course this was going to happen. I think I even said it in a past podcast before. And it was in the next 20 years, and probably even sooner than that, especially if it gets advanced, we're going to start seeing more and more sophisticated, and I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one. AI things that are going to make life a little bit more tricky. We're going to start walking on eggshells with this stuff because pretty soon it's not just going to know your spending habits or your favorite lunch. It's going to know your medical history. It's going to know your fears. And that sounds a little bit, more Stephen King than I would want it to, but you know what I mean? Like annoyances, running out of gas. So then it's going to start knowing more or less when you fill up on gas, like you said, based off of bank records, or when you spend money on gas, and it's going to say, hey, make sure you fill up and make sure you get this deal at this certain location.
It's true.
I feel like that's pretty much the same thing as basically being listened in on. And that creepy feeling, I can't seem to shake it,
Well, I will tell you the ads that play on YouTube and other shows work. Because our 7-year-old desperately wants a Casper mattress. And I know when I was her age, I had no inkling of what brand mattresses there were. But because she's been seeing ads for Casper mattresses, that's all she wants.
Yeah, no, I think we've all experienced this this interesting effect that it's had on the current generation. I think that's what's most disturbing the most is how quickly the kid. I mean, yes, when we were kids, there's a commercial about,
G.I. Joe's
or basketball.
Well, that wasn't a commercial.
Legos.
It was a 30-minute TV show.
Yeah. And now it's like the simplest things are so well versed and so well targeted towards these kids. They wrap around it. And I know you know this because you have a girl, and so does Chase. But anything having to do with dolls, anything having to do with makeup, anything having to do with mirrors or dressing or anything like that, they want it. They want it. They want to be on top of it, and they want to be in front of it. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, some of these things just look so. And I stand the risk of sounding old again and like a guy, but really, it's like you want every single one of these dolls. You never even watched that show. What are you talking about? But they know how so well to perfectly talk to these kids that it appeals to them almost anything.
Yeah.
It's funny as kids, but as adults, it's very scary to one day think that they might be adults that could be easily influenced by things that are a little bit more than easily manufactured to gain their approval, I guess. I don't know what the safeguard against it is. I know that you were 100 absolutely right about a certain social media app that went down and then came back up. And nothing was more validating of that point than the fact that it went down in the first place. And so I thank you for that I was able to stay away from that. But now it's like, did we learn any lessons from that? Are there any lessons being learned, or is everybody just going to ignore it and just keep plowing through it, you know? I wonder what your opinion on that might be.
I don't know.
Are you familiar with which I'm talking about?
I am, and I don't have that app.
I understand, me either. And, I'm okay with, as a matter of fact, just to give you some context, I was at a outside mall, I guess. It's called the Fountains here in El Paso. And we go there to get some frozen yogurt. It's a lot of fun. And we went to this little common area where they have like grass for kids to play soccer or whatever. And there was very obviously a stand with a ring light and these two girls, and they were dancing to something which would be associated with this app. And it's become very obvious to me that despite all the recent concerns about it that came out, people don't care. They don't care about the concerns. They just kind of want to still be a part of the fun. They want to be involved in it. And I think that's what's most concerning is like you were given quite an extensive, or God willing, the people were made aware of what happens when you get too invested in these things. And it just seems like people just look the other way and say, oh, no, it's fine. And now I'm like, I don't know. I worry that the future of children are being too taught to become influencers and content creators. I realize the hypocrisy, but again, I never expected us to go anywhere, but I'm so happy that, we're still able to have fun. But they see the content creator thing as more of a career aspect than they do the real jobs in the world, like doctors, lawyers, accountants, CPAs.
Our child wanted to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
That was her dream. Well, I wouldn't say it was a dream. It was one of the things she wanted to do until we signed her up for a how to be a YouTuber class, and it was hard and stressful. That changed her mind. Exactly.
And I'm dealing with the same issue on my part, and my only defense is you're not 13. You're not 13. I'll help you do fun things. If you want to make videos for fun and to, be funny, that's fine. I'm all about that. But if you're thinking it's a real life career choice, it's
hard to argue when you've got people making millions just being idiots on the internet.
Yeah, and that's what we're dealing with, right? Is seeing people who say the dumbest things and they get millions and millions of views.
Yeah,
and it's frustrating. There's this show called Big City Greens, and Joshy and Allie are my kiddos. They're very into that. They think it's hilarious. And there's this one episode where they cover like a vlogger who went from the most popular person in the world, which I have to say was probably like their jab at Logan Paul, to irrelevant, which is their jab at him after the proliferation of such media outlets like TikTok or Instagram Shorts or YouTube Shorts and all that stuff, and how quickly it turns on you. And it's like, that's the point that I think so many of us from the older generation are trying to make is, yes, they do well for a little while, but at some point it stops. And you get tired. You can't keep this up forever. So unless you have a plan, you have to still have financial responsibility. You still have to have a solid backup plan. But if this is your entire goal in life, that's not a solid, as a parent, it's like, we cannot allow you to think that this is a solid career path, It's a fun as a hobby and do it on the side, but not as your goal in life. No.
And we've limited their YouTube access just because they were watching it too much. And now Amazon is hosting a bunch of these YouTubers on their service, which makes it a lot harder to block.
Isn't that interesting?
Which is disappointing to us.
We were having that exact same issue, and April was very vigilant in making sure that they, it was limited. There was a cutoff time. And on
for us too.
Special occasions, special holidays, weekends and stuff, we try to be a little bit more lenient. But yeah, it's almost frightening how locked in they get. And me and April were having this discussion. At least when we watched television as kids, back in the day, in the 1990s, there was something called commercials. And we would go to the bathroom. We would get a snack. We would get up and, go do something while we were waiting for the show to come back on. But nowadays, it's like nonstop, constant dopamine feeding stuff into their head. And it almost is like what's the word I'm looking for?
Addiction.
Yes, exactly. When it's taken away from them, there's almost like a fallout. When you take something away from somebody that very used to it, very addicted to it, and
Yeah.
they have that reaction. It's scary to see, especially in a kid. You're like, oh my gosh, what exactly is going on? And yes, all the stuff they're watching is, age appropriate stuff, Blippy or whatever. But it's so constant and so concise that after a while you're like, oh my gosh, they don't. Where's the time for their brain to rest? It's just this constant assimilation of knowledge. And I guess in compilation with that, and AI is, able to target market people for specifically what they want, that's where I get a little bit like, oh crap, here we go. So I don't know. What do you think are the best safeguards against something like that, Mr. Jeff?
Active parenting.
Fair.
Gotta
Very
pay
fair.
attention to what your kids are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's easier said than done, especially these days when they go over to the neighbor's house and the neighbor doesn't
Care.
have the same feelings.
Yeah. It sounds like a very well, duh type of thing, but nowadays I wonder. It's not as commonplace as it used to be.
Yeah.
Because the parents themselves are what? They're on Twitter, they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, and do they ever evaluate their time spent with the kids and their development, or are they distracted themselves?
Good question.
Based off of observations, and probably cynical observations, but just mine alone, I guess.
But Blippi is great television, and you will not get me to say otherwise.
You know what? He recently was at Disney Adventures Animal Kingdom or something like that. And all these people were posting pictures of him being there, and I was very much happy with it. No, the quality of the content is not the question. It's the amount, I should say, the amount of content one absorbs in a certain amount of time that is what's concerning. Like,
Yeah.
I could watch Dragon Ball and love it and think it's the greatest thing in the world. But I know that if I spent all day watching Dragon Ball and not, doing the laundry or cleaning the house or helping kids with homework, that's a very negative effect. But as an adult, I can realize that, especially with the background being a kid in, the 90s sort of situation. But kids nowadays are like, oh no, this is what's normal. You get online and you watch whatever you want, and then once the video's done, you go to the next video. And once this video's done, you go to the next video. And this video's not done, well, he's gonna recommend another video. And you keep going and going and going. And to me, it's like, ooh.
Remember our parents probably thought the same thing when we were watching like G.I. Joe and...
Fair. Very, very fair. We have AI that regenerates video. We have AI that does what's called deep fakes, which I'm sure everybody is aware of what that concept is now, but it's a one where you can take an actor from a movie and then put somebody else's face in there, and it looks like it 100% is this other person. And then you can even go so far as to take a song from an artist and replace it with somebody else's voice, and it makes it sound like the other person more. I mean, you can still tell it's fake, is singing that song instead. I know that I was reading about this one issue with Sony Music. I was saying that they removed over 75,000 AI-generated deepfake recordings featuring popular artists. And it's getting a little bit concerning because we're going into an era where it's easy to make, let's say, holograms. We're able to deepfake people's faces, their voices, and even their speech patterns. And it makes it so that, maybe in 20 years from now, we'll be able to still hear something from James Earl Jones in Star Wars, but it's not going to be him. And it's only getting better. I mean, it's only getting better. It's not stopping. It's not slowing down any type. But it's also, to me, a moral, gray line. Where do we stop with something like that? Where does it stop being interesting and start being a little bit more creepy and scary? In your opinion, sir?
If the actor or whoever's being faked estate is okay with it, I'm less concerned because, I would love to hear more work from James Earl Jones, but unfortunately he has passed on.
Yes.
Along with a number of other
notable
voices. But if it's done without the estate or the family agreeing, then that is obviously wrong.
Oh, absolutely 100%. 100%. But I guess more along the lines of, we have a great example would be the way they portrayed Princess Leia in the movie Rogue One, a Star Wars movie. And they were obviously using the beginnings, the very infancy of deepfake technology to superimpose her face onto an actress. and use someone who sounded very similar to her or bits of her information of sounding to portray her voice. And I would have to assume that Carrie Fisher's estate, like you said, had to approve her being used in that fashion. But does using that somehow take away the mystery, the genuine feeling of it being them? When you can just bring anybody back for any reason, is there a moral issue involved other than getting approval from the family? Or is it like you said, where it's like, oh no, as long as the family's on board, go for it?
That's an art question, and I'm an engineer, so I'm the wrong person to ask.
No, it's opinion based. It's not a yes or no answer. Opinion is, nothing more than what you pay for, right? What do they say opinions are like? So
I think for me, it depends on how tasteful it's done. I mean, if you put like Carrie Fisher in like a monster truck with her hair on fire or whatever, driving over stormtroopers, then people are gonna be really pissed off about it.
right.
But when it was just maybe a few seconds, and in the actual movie or the show, then I think it was okay. Kind of like with Luke in Mandalorian.
Yeah, that was a bit of a stretch, right?
But I think it was still, as long as it's in snippets, like if it's like really long scenes, then I feel like it kind of takes away from it. But when it's like really short scenes, then I think it's okay.
I mean, it definitely was a little bit weird watching. I mean, yes, the end of Mandalorian, it was acceptable. It was cool to believe that, our hero was young again and able to go through these experiences. But watching the Book of Boba Fett and having him being there, running around, training with Grogu, it was a bit like, And the only reason I was okay with it, because you knew that Mark Hamill had to have been on board. He would not have allowed that to have happened if he wasn't on board. And everybody seemed very accepting of that, and that was fine. But it does kind of make you think like, well, then, if nothing's off limits, what is going to happen going forward? And
it's a good question.
And that's where it's starting to get. When the most advanced technology is starting to become available to someone like me, good God, we're in trouble. But
yes, that's true.
Yeah, right. I'm trying to be honest about it. But I think we can't deny that, this whole AI thing and all that, it's becoming an integral part of almost everybody's lives. Schools are going to do it. They're going to helping, like you said, Chase, or people are having to change the way that they give assignments just to look up to make sure kids aren't actually doing this. Kids are worried about, making sure there's people watching them doing their homework, that parents probably who aren't as invested into the time of their kids' education as they would want to be. And I'm not saying that if you're not invested in your kids' education that you're useless. Most people are working. They don't have time to stop and do this, and they're just hoping to God they can give their kids the best education possible. So they can't stop them from cheating, especially if they figure out these things from their friends or their peers or whatever. And it's like trying to figure out the moral gray area for this is becoming more and more vast. And I think that's what's frustrating to me, is like, at what point do we say that's too much and this is okay? And that's where I get a little bit like, oh crap, man, I'm getting old. And at what point does our responsibility start, and what point does our responsibility need to be backed off a little bit? So
that's a good question. I don't have an answer for you.
No, and it's just a thought. It's meant to make people think about it themselves. Critical thinking, again, I think is a very important thing to have. So, and I can't believe anybody would come to a podcast called the Jackass Express for critical thinking. But if you are here and you're listening to this, I am very, very appreciative of that. So thank you all. Well, gentlemen, we are reaching about that 7:45 p.m. line here. I really appreciate it.
Maybe for you.
Huh?
Maybe for you.
Is it a little bit later for you, sir? I know.
Oh, yeah. It's 2 hours ahead, man.
Oh, man. I appreciate you, Jeff. Thank you so much for being here. It means a lot. You too, Mr. Jonathan. I know you guys got stuff to do. It's a lot easier to do. We're going to keep trying to make a more consistent podcast. Keep trying.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't participate as much as I wanted to.
Yes. And we're hoping to get more people involved. We're obviously still kind of limited by people's time differences. I know Julian wanted very much to be a part of this, but his time frame is a little bit more easier in the mornings, and some of our time frames are a little limited in the evenings, and so on and so on. But as we go forward, hopefully we can just bring you really concise, quality podcasts to make up for the lack of quantity. Thank you once again for listening to the Jackass Express podcast. Thank you for sticking with us after all this time. I think our goal should be is to one day make it to episode 100. If we can do that, I think we'll be happy, or I'll be happy. Gentlemen, once again,
Like doing more than one episode a year would be.
one episode a year. Hey, that gives us something to look forward to every year. Because there's one thing about sweet talking individuals into a certain time, but there's one thing about a definitive here, yes or no. And that's a lot more, I think, practical. So I like that a lot more. All right, gentlemen, much more to discuss. Thank you for your time. Have a good night. We shall see you next time. And farewell.
Good night.
Jackass Express, welcome aboard, so let's get it flowing. The Jackass Express. The Jackass Express.